Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ace here, and to those of you who watched the most recent video where I played, let me see, where I played this bad boy, or girl, most ships are girls, as per naval doctrine. USS Newport News, very big thank you. I kind of recorded that video on a whim. I will record more videos with this ship. I absolutely adore it, but that's not the subject of the video today. The subject of the video today is what are Gaijin's plans for rank 4? I realized none of the really big YouTubers are actually talking about that. Nobody's commented on the fact that recently the rank 4 section in some of the tech trees have been extended, although not really to a noticeable degree except for the American air tree. The American air tree in rank 4 has been extended drastically. Multiple aircraft are now foldered, which weren't before. So aircraft that are foldered, the F-8Fs, the A-26s, and the ADs are now foldered when they weren't before. And the F-8Fs, I think I talked about that already. The last series of Corsairs in the tech tree were foldered, the Hellcats were foldered, the PBJs were foldered, and the P-47s were foldered. This is rather odd and kind of out of the nowhere, as well as the SB-2Cs, let's not forget about those. And the B-17s, which I didn't notice before. Why is there now such a huge gap? On top of that, they've rearranged the premium tech tree on this side. It was obviously, since it's extended, they've lengthened the order of aircraft, and it's gone from having them all in a nice big cluster kind of here to extended down the line to the A1H, which is in the battle pass, although I will state quite oddly the A2D coming before it in the lineup, even though the A2D is 7-0. Bit strange, but then again, this tree was recently reorganized, and most players who can't reach level 75 or don't have the battle pass, let's face it, most people aren't buying the battle pass. Won't even receive the A1H, so it won't show up in their premium tree, which means it won't be a problem. There are dozens and dozens of aircraft you could add to fill this slot. There's plenty of stuff from World War II that we still don't have. There's things from the early Cold War, like Korea and early Vietnam. I mean, the AD Sky Raiders weren't the only props flying around for Vietnam. I think, there's huge gaps all along the tech tree now in several places. In multiple tech trees. It's not just America that's got an extension of rank 4. I think Germany, I'm pretty sure, is filled out pretty well. I mean, there's still gaps and stuff, obviously. There's things they can add in the lower ranks and tiers. The USSR has many gaps, although I am sure of which will be filled with more variants of already existing airframes and things like that, because it's Russia and they're copy-paste as much as America is with a lot of its vehicles. I've not showcased the Vorslav in a video. I'll address this now. I've not showcased this particular ship in a video before. I don't really like it that much. I don't like having to play this boat very often. Granted, I did play it a bunch when grinding out for the Newport News, but that's another story. In Great Britain, there's obviously this huge gap now in between the Gladiators and the Spitfires, and of course I think that's been there for a while, but now there's all these. I'm pretty sure they're starting to folder other aircraft. There's just, what's going on? I'm thinking that the next few major updates might take a step back from top tier. Everybody is all excited about the new top tier stuff, but the majority of players don't have up that high in rank. America has so many vehicles. This tree is absolutely packed, and there's room for so many more. Getting up here to where the F-16s are, especially down a tech tree that, up until they added the F-16s, wasn't really a priority tree for most people. They were going down this naval line for the F-8s and the higher tier Phantom and the F-14. Now they're going to have to backtrack, like I'm doing, as you can see, and go through who knows how many vehicles to get to that top tier new plane. And by the time they have it, Gaijin could have added something else that beats it in performance and yada yada. And as you can see in Israel, there's still a couple gaps and stuff, and I'm already researching the F-16 nets because I already grinded out pretty much this entire tech tree before Apex Predators hit. The only vehicle I had in the tech tree to research that I hadn't done yet was the F-8E Phantom, but now, again, this vehicle is sidetracked for this one. And same story for Italy. Italy was in desperate need of something nice and new, and they got two somethings nice and new, which is appreciative. I'm very happy to see that, because before they were just getting F-104 on F-104. And the SASA is arguably a fairly okay aircraft, but the problem is, until you get the flares for it, it's just, you get pummeled. And even once you have the AIM-9Ls, there's no guarantee you get good games with it, and on top of that, something like an F-14 or an F-16 even now can catch you. I'm not sure about the MiG-29. I've not seen how it performs. I'm not high enough in the Russian tech tree to even bother test flying it. There's not really anything in the game that would perform similar enough that I know performs similar enough to try and test that out. But, yeah, honestly though, weirdly enough, the one airplane I say that's underperforming in this current BR is the MiG-29, because thank God, not a lot of people are that high in the Russian air tree without having bought a premium aircraft like the 23ML to get there, which means a lot of the players that are up in the MiG-29 in the first place aren't experienced really in doing that, because a lot of people have bought something like the SU-7 BMK or the SU-25K or the MiG-21 SR-13-300, and they're not going to know what to do when they get in a jet like this. So there's a reason for that, and I hope to God Gaijin does not buff that plane, because it is in no need. It's arguably better than the Tomcat, which people are saying is overperforming this patch, and I personally don't agree, because I've had this since I got this the same patch it came out, and I still haven't spaded it. I'm nowhere close. My point in case, this is my grind tree, because until you get flares and chaff, you die. You die a lot. You die enough to the point where its repair cost is enough to ward you away from playing it in the first place until you get good modifications for it. Anyway, back to my point. What's Gaijin's plan for rank 4? As I've said before, there's a lot of things they could be adding. Variants of aircraft from World War II we still didn't get. There's all kinds of experimental things they could be adding. This could also signal that Gaijin is willing to lax some of their restrictions on what's allowed to become a tech tree vehicle in-game. God knows there's dozens on dozens, hundreds even, of experimental airplanes for multiple nations that have been passed to developers, suggested in Gaijin inbox and so forth, so on, and not really been added because they didn't meet the qualification, like they were an experimental and they only built one, or it was only a paper vehicle and so on. Gaijin has laxed that before, stuff like the XP55, obviously, never saw production. XF5F, Never saw production. These X planes, like the XP-38, technically didn't exist, which was why they removed it from game and replaced it with the YP-38. Although I am sad to say I didn't get the XP-38 or the first German Jug because I just didn't have the money or the time to get and play them. And they removed them from the game before I could grab them. One vehicle I almost got shafted on was this, the Pyromirsky. Gaijin had announced that they would put this aircraft on a 50% off sale, which would have made it $10, and that was $10 I was very much willing to pay. And I had put the $10 on my console, waiting for the discount to hit, and the discount never came. Apparently the sale got canceled, they never announced it, and then by the time any information on that came out, they had already removed the vehicle from the game. The pack was gone. I missed out on the pack. Luckily, they added the vehicle back for Golden Eagles later on, in which I got half off around when the anniversary came, the 10-year anniversary. I got this vehicle half off. 800 GE, well spent. This aircraft is very, very nice, and I am very glad to have it. However, I did almost wound up not having it. Because Gaijin apparently doesn't feel a need to tell its people what's going on. Some vehicles you see, like the Kefir Canard, which they just added this patch as premiums, you might see me get. I, for one, am kind of collecting aircraft like Israeli Delta Wings, so the Kefir Canard is definitely on the future buy list. Because I already have the Mirage, the Nesha, the Kefir C7, and I even grinded out back during the Battle of Arrakis, April 2022. I ground out the Kefir C2. I still haven't spaded it. Probably because it's not been at the top of my list to do, but also because it was originally 11.3 alongside the C7, and then it was down to 11.0, and now it's at 10.7. So it's not doing so well, and I don't really know why, because once it's spaded out, there's very little different between it and the C7, and the C7 does okay at tier. France, I'm still grinding up this tree. The reason why I'm grinding up this tree is to get Mirage 2000s. I want these so bad. I might just wind up buying the new F1C200. Now, I would like to say, slight problem with these higher tier premiums is a lot of inexperienced players are going to buy them. Why is that a problem? Because it floods the matchmaker with people who don't know what they're doing, and it lets a lot of the higher skill players just absolutely demolish. But however, that can have a detrimental effect because then things get easy for them, and then when battles start getting hard again, nobody's doing well, and it messes with the performance index on several airplanes. It says that this was doing too well, so let's nerf it, and then when things get hard again, it's not doing good enough, let's buff it. And that messes with the matchmaker even more, which creates a cluster. However, I am an experienced pilot, as you've seen. I even got the F4D. Everybody said this thing was garbage, the Skyray. I flew it, it's near spaded, I love it. I don't care what anybody says, it's really good. But that's the thing. I'm an experienced pilot. So for me, getting a high tier premium to help me grind out a new tree isn't a big deal because I'm going to know at least somewhat of what I'm doing even though it's a new aircraft. I am excited for the future to see what Gaijin has planned for Rank 4. And subsequently higher tiers. Of course, people are already talking about, next patch, F15. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Gaijin might actually take a step back, add a whole bunch of vehicles to the lower tiers. Granted, some people might be mad about that. because it makes their grind to the higher top tier a lot longer, because it means there's more vehicles they have to go through. However, I don't think the requirement to rank up will change, because right now it's 5 vehicles in each rank to get to the next rank, and I don't think they're going to change that. Not at all, so yeah, you'll probably be forced to go through more vehicles even if you've unlocked the next tier, but overall it's not going to affect your grind too hard. It could inject a lot of new life into the game. I mean, War Thunder's getting bigger all the time. Case in point, right now it's showing 130,000 players online and over 3,000 in battles. And it's a weekday. There are however many players at work or at school or etc. So that's my point. Game's getting big, injecting even more life into it, more vehicles, it's not only serving as for gameplay and to attract new players, it's also serving as a history lesson like this, the A1H. Not a lot of people know this, but it was an A1H Skyraider. That was the last piston-powered aircraft to shoot down a jet. During Vietnam, 2 of these shot down a MiG-17 while running protective air patrol for a downed airman. Not a lot of people know that. It serves as a good history lesson. What's the history of this particular variant? Because even though you have the AD series aircraft in game, which are also known as Skyraiders, they were earlier variants. And this is weirdly the only prop in the game. It probably will stay that way. This is the only piston-powered prop in the game with flares. Which is interesting, because at 6.3, I don't think it sees anything where it will need to use them. Do with that what you will. That information. A lot of people are talking about upcoming patches where they'll add a lot more for Naval. I am actually weirdly excited for that coming up. There's all kinds of potential for the Naval VR game mode, and I'm actually going to start playing it fairly regularly in the American tech tree at least, until things get more interesting for other tech trees. People are talking about this year even, they could be adding the Iowa class, the Tirpitz class ships, and I think the Yamato class ships for Japan, Germany, America. The big, well-known battleships of World War II that everybody knows about. And honestly, adding those boats is going to attract a lot of attention to the naval game mode, because as you can see, it's split into 2 tech trees, blue and coastal. I've got a way to go, but they've already got ships like the Arizona here, which was the class before the Iowa. And in my personal opinion, the Newport News is kind of like a mini Iowa class. It's larger than the Helena Premium. It's at 0.3 BR higher. It's a heavy cruiser, not a light cruiser, so it's got some really good armor and the bigger guns, and it's got 3 turrets in roughly the exact same configuration as an Iowa class. Even its exterior design is very similar, with this bow rise and this lower slope. Kinda reminded me a lot of ships like Missouri when I first saw it. I knew it was going to be a good boat when I got it. Things that didn't really show off in the video that I did for it. I have played a match, and granted, I am still roughly new to Naval, especially at top rank. I'm basically brand new to the game mode at top rank. I have played this boat, and I have gotten, if it weren't for the fact I kept having kills stolen, I would have had a 10k match at top rank without dying. Because even stock, this thing's guns with the fire rate and the penetration absolutely eat people. This boat is extremely good and well worth the 8,000 golden eagles some people might wind up paying to just get it after the event's over. Technically, the event is over because the last star ended on the 9th. However, this will still be around to buy until the 16th, I think. Very good vehicle, well worth the money. And as I'm sure some people saw, I did get the Tornado IDS as well. And weirdly enough, even though people say the Tornado's not that great, I am stock, and I feel this vehicle is plenty well okay. Weirdly enough, this is the most fun I've had at 10.7 in a long time. Twin AIM-9Ls out the bat. You can equip 4 later on, and while this one's at a lower BR and it doesn't get access to a lot of the other missiles, like its radar guided it's a ground-to-air missile. It's an anti-tank. It's not meant for, anti-shipping missile. It's not meant for air-to-air. It's a good vehicle, I feel. The guns are nice. They lead well. And I actually wound up killing an F-14 and an F-5C in quick succession, hilariously. Yeah. Strangely, an okay vehicle. It's got a good radar on it. And you can still lock people with it, so unless they know the difference between this one and the tech tree one, they're probably going to assume you have a lock with something nasty on, and they'll freak out, which is funny. Because I have done that before. I locked, what was it? I think it was a Mirage F1. I locked him with the radar just for kicks and giggles, and I watched him immediately start spamming the countermeasures button. And it was hilarious because I couldn't even lock him with anything. I just locked him with the radar. I didn't have any missiles left. I had already used the AIM-9Ls before, so I was closing in on him to shoot with the cannons. And he was freaking out because I had radar lock. That's my point. You can play mind games. Most people, when they get radar locked, immediately assume that something strong is about to get launched at them, and they freak out because that's usually the case. Something strong gets launched at them. But anyway, I, for one, am curious as what the gaijin's going to do in the future. I hope everybody else is, and thank you all so much for watching. It's been Ace. Bye!